Good morning, everybody. As Eddie introduced, my name is Michael Webb. I am from G3G UK, and on the call with me today is Chris Brooks. He's from Best. He's the GL product manager for Best. As we go into the next one, thanks for me, Chris. Today's agenda will be a quick introduction for myself about G3G, where Chris will take over in the introduction about Best. We'll take a look through the GL module offered by Best from the reconciliation side, and then some customer highlights that have been achieved by using the Best module within SAP. Then we'll move forward onto looking what's coming forward in the next couple of releases with Best, Best and Fiori, and then we'll end off with questions. So if you have any questions, as Ellie said, please put them into the polls and we'll take them from there. So G3G, we're a SAP Gold partner. We've over 23 years worth of experience specializing in the ERP and advisory services. We offer licensing, provisions, and audits, and also implementation services. We're a SAP certified partner, wholly owned by Epiuse, which trades under the name groupelephant.com. You might have heard of Epiuse before. They specialize in the HCRM space of SAP. Under the group, we operate under a hybrid model. We are about 3,500 employees across 40 countries, and we're largely employee-owned. They're small boutique businesses, mainly focusing around the services and software companies. We also have a non-profit, which trades under ERP or Elephant, Rhino, and People. As you can see from the slide on the screen, we specialize in ERP program management, S4HANA, moving to S4HANA from ECC6. We also implement ERP software, SAP, and we as well as an IFS partner. We excel in very highly regulated industries and with complex B2B. As you can see, we also manage diversities and acquisitions in the market as well. This is just a quick overview of the groupelephant.com. These are the companies that fall under the groupelephant.com. And as mentioned before, we operate within 40 countries across the globe, spanning Europe, Americas, Asia, Middle East, and Africa. This is a small snippet of the client list we have worked with under the group. You might see your name up there, you might not. These are the industries we work in from there. So within the group, we're highly experienced within the SAP and software and development, and we offer more services around that as well. I'm going to hand over to Chris now, so you can explain who Best is. Chris?
Great, thanks a lot, Michael. Yeah, so in terms of just giving some context as to who Best is, Best is a South African company that was founded in 2009. And basically the focus is developing, implementing, and supporting SAP certified modules. So we resolve gaps in standard SAP functionality within the finance area. The beauty of the Best modules is that they are inside of SAP. So we don't have to create any interfaces. There's no duplicated data. There's no third-party infrastructure that is involved. It really, from an end-user perspective, it just feels like an extension of standard SAP functionality. It looks and feels the same, and is obviously using the same IT infrastructure, same SAP authorizations. I'll even talk on some of these benefits, but obviously a huge benefit being inside of SAP, and we are an SAP partner. And all the modules are SAP certified. We've certified to S4HANA 2022. So if you are on a journey to move to S4HANA or using an S4HANA system, it's no problem using any of the Best modules. Just to kind of give you some context there on the slide that we're looking at, those are our 4 key modules that we have. The first one there being the Best GL Recon module. That's what I'm going to be focusing on in today's session. That's looking at automating your month-end reconciliations, all within SAP itself, and managing all the approvals and reporting within SAP around that entire process. We also have a GL Clearing module. That's primarily looking at clearing open items in SAP. So As SAP users, you'll be familiar with that concept. You'll know that standard SAP has automated clearing and manual clearing. But where those tend to fall short is when clearing gets a little bit more complex. Maybe it's matching references across different assignment fields or account assignment fields, so headers and text and things like that, or cross-company code clearing. We can actually automate that type of clearing. And when it's large volumes of data, that's really when it comes into its form. We can use this kind of programmatic matching to enable the best clearing within SAP. We also have a debtors remit and reader module. That's kind of an extension of clearing, but it's looking primarily at allocating your customer payments. So we had the problem statement is, I've got 10 million Rand or 10 million euros that's sitting in my bank account, and I need to go and assign that to my customer, and he sent me a 20-page remittance. Now I'll spend an hour and a half trying to go and allocate that. What we can do is we can take that remittance into SAP, take that line out in detail from the remittance, and now use that to go and allocate to the customer account automatically. Lastly, the vendor statement recon and reader module is now looking at your suppliers and actually taking your supplier statement and again taking that into SAP and automating a reconciliation directly with your vendor account in SAP. And it can track all the different statuses so that you can actually identify what matches, perhaps what is still sitting in your GRR account, pricing differences, etc. And now you can automate that recon and then integrate it with your payment program so that you can actually hold back on certain payments and then send a detailed reconciliation to your supplier thereafter. Okay, so again, also just some of our best clients. Again, this is both locally for us based in South Africa as well as abroad. So quite a nice spectrum of local and international clients represented there. Okay, so now I'm going to focus on the GL recons and then get into some of the success stories that we've seen from feedback from our customers. But typically the problem of why we needed to create our module was that because standard SAP didn't offer a GL reconciliation process, that people are doing it outside of SAP. So, I've got some examples of some fairly, typical reconciliations that people would do. And the kind of go-to application would be Microsoft Excel. So we would see this, people exporting detail from SAP into Excel and then doing the manual process within Excel itself. And obviously this is time consuming, it can be error prone. And as soon as you've kind of extracted from your source system, as that source system is being updated, anything outside of it is potentially out of date. Often the supporting documentation of screen grabs or actually stapled to physical recons if that's the process, but it's all again outside of SAP. And then there's a form of off-system review, digital signature, physical signature, and then it kind of gets filed away or saved on SharePoint, saved on a network folder somewhere, and it's all outside of your SAP security controls. And
so, Chris, based on the experiences you've dealt with customer engagement and demos, is this a fairly common issue with businesses attempting to complete their month-end balance sheet recons?
Yes, yeah, for sure. And actually, it's we have a lot of client discovery calls and demos, and we talk to the slide, and often there's a lot of nodding, if people, and it really is. It's like Excel is that kind of go-to application, and it's interesting because often there are very robust and well documented and well thought out approaches to the reconciliations, but it's typically just done outside of the system. So everyone kind of might have a good idea of what to do, but it's being pulled out, manually manipulated, added
macros,
put into a template, and done that way. And it's obviously very difficult for anyone to have control over a process like that.
And what are the main driving factors with these engagements you've had with these demos and these customer engagements for businesses to look for a solution like BEST?
Yeah, so it often is, the kind of three key elements is, I guess people know that it is manual. So they know it's time consuming. They know that it's potentially error prone. So, and we all know that in this day and age, there's typically better ways to do things. So people are looking to incorporate automation and clever and faster ways to do it. So that's certainly one element is to reduce time from a very manual process. The other things are also control. It's important for people to feel like they have control over the process. Not only just introducing inherent controls into the process, but actually have management control. And that typically I refer to like management oversight. So that becomes like reporting, knowing who's doing what, where you are in the process, and having those kind of reports to be able to manage it from start to end. And the other thing is that's often very important is standardization. So with manual processes that are being done outside of the system, especially when you start getting to large organizations, maybe multiple regions and countries, it's very hard to know, is everyone doing the same process? Is a bank recon being done in this country being done in the same way as another country? And people want to actually use the system now that can actually control and drive that standardization so that, again, you know that everyone's meeting what you expect as kind of your base level of control and compliance in that process.
Definitely.
Okay. Okay, so again, I've touched on some of these just around best being inside of SAP. Just to look at it, some of these points that are noted in the slide. Obviously, that means that interfaces. We're not trying to duplicate information outside of SAP. We're not trying to manage interfaces and kind of detailed mappings to keep two systems in sync. You're obviously not logging into other systems. Using your same security controls within SAP itself, and also the same IT infrastructure. And we see, with a lot of potential customers in terms of data protection, in terms of duplicating data outside of SAP, it's all becoming so much more important to make sure that that's well secured. And personal information is private, and now all of we're not having to take anything outside of SAP. So it's always part and parcel of your SAP controls and infrastructure, backups, things like that. Our information is always current. It's great, because as soon as you run billing, you run clearing, you post transactions, it's going to reflect immediately in your recon. And you have that kind of drill through functionality. You can click on documents. You can go and look at the purchase order, the sales order. You have that normal kind of fluid SAP navigation within the system immediately from any of the best reports and reconciliations. And from there, it's also, we automate a lot of our processes. So it just makes sense to do it within SAP as your source transactional system.
And I think being it in SAP and looking the same in the field, it's quick to pick up. The learning curve is a lot quicker because it's exactly the same look and feel.
100%. And if anyone has ever seen, or if they do see our screens, if you've run an SAP line item report or balance report, it's the same look and feel. We have the same kind of display variant and layout variant concept that you use. The inclusions and exclusions of all of that is very much the same. So it really doesn't take long for a user to kind of go, okay, well, I just need to know where to click, and then I'm A for away.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last slide before I start moving into kind of some feedback from our customers around specific successes is just to give you, I guess, a little bit of context and a high-level overview of the functionality. So that kind of helps you understand when I start talking about these successes, what functionality they have enabled to achieve these. And looking at the problem statement that I made earlier is this is how we try and tackle it, and all within SAP, starting with that first point there, our kind of Recon Hub. This is a key management report for us, but it really has a lot of functions that it does within our solution. At its core, it will identify all of the reconciliations that you're expecting to do across your organization. So that'll be across all the different companies. And based on the master data and how you've set it up, it'll actually tell you what your expectant reconciliations are that you're expecting to complete. And you'll be able to see who the responsible people are, but it'll actually track it through your approval process. So in its simplest form, maybe think of a 2-level approval. You'll have a level 1 being the preparation of the recon, level 2 being the approval, and that would complete your process. And now you'll be able to see what's not started, what's sitting at level 1 awaiting approval, and what has actually been completed. And we can automate notifications and emails to nudge people along and say, look, here's an approval that's ready for you. And we've done that in a way that is, you get one email, and it might be one email for 20 approvals that you have to do. So you're not going to get bombarded with 20 different emails. You'll see when I talk about the processing stats, there's some big numbers that people are reconciling, and the last thing you need is to go and get 150 emails a day that you just start ignoring. But that's really what the hub does. And that's kind of that go-to management report where someone can actually go and either manage their own little specific work set for the recons. Maybe it's their country that they're looking at. Maybe it's across the entire board that you're monitoring. Just looking at the recon report itself, this is kind of the bread and butter of the solution. This is where you actually would be looking at a specific recon. We have, I'm always wary of potentially talking about templates. I like to think of recons almost more as objectives, because it's more than just the display that you're looking at. It's actually what you're combining from an approval process. So there might be, what is the objective of the recon? And through our master data, through our configuration, and through what we incorporate into the recon approval is how we would achieve that. So we have different approaches for fixed assets and banks and intercompanies, and accruals, etc. But all of it comes through this online recon report. It has a host of information in there. As a SAP finance user, I love it because it's pulling information from multiple sources. So in one report, I'm getting header and line item information. I'm getting assets, I'm getting banks, I'm getting customers, I'm getting vendors, I'm getting GLs. It's kind of like a one-stop shop of information that I would typically be running from multiple different transactions in SAP. But what this is going to do is it's going to automatically categorize the items on the recon. So at the click of a button, you're going to get information back immediately to be able to tell you more, about the items that make up that balance. And that could be like current period items versus prior period. Maybe what you flagged as a specific tolerance that gets breached, it'll be flagged for you. Maybe it's an accrual document that was created that hasn't been reversed. Maybe it was cleared after the current recon period. All of that information you're going to get for free. And over and above that, we have additional information that you can put into the system. So this might be a reason code, long text, free text, and other custom fields that we have. And that would typically be what people are often doing in Excel. So they're actually putting little notes and information into Excel for that item. We do that in SAP itself with the full audit history. So you can see who added it, who changed it, who removed it, and they stay on the recon for as long as that item is there. So you don't have to kind of repeat that every month. And that's often, if anyone has a demo, we spend a lot of time in that, because obviously we go through different recons and show how we do that. But obviously that's real time online. So if you need to go and clear something, post something, you rerun that recon and it's there.
The power to your fingertips.
Yeah, and available to anyone with access, So, but obviously we come to the recon approval, and that's really it's quite a fun part of it, because that's where we get to kind of inject controls into the process. So we have these approval strategies that we can create. You can have up to 9 levels of approval, and each of those levels can have different checks. And we've got a whole lot of checks that we can drive. Maybe you have to have an attachment. Maybe you have to add a comparable balance or a statement balance. Maybe you have to add a recon status. Maybe you can only approve it when the period is open or closed. So all of these types of things we can now incorporate, and the system is going to manage it. So now, if you had a rule that said, well, I always want an attachment on a recon, it's not going to let someone approve until that's done. So this is where you can now start saying, right, these are my expectations. These are the minimum controls that I want, and the system is going to help you manage that. And that's great, you know. So this is helping us drive those controls and standardization that I was kind of talking to earlier, and it starts giving you that kind of reliance that you can now start placing on what's being done in the system, and obviously that, you know, lends itself to you know, better control. And like auditors can now start basing their audit checks on system-driven controls and reliance, you know, from that. And, you know, we attach all supporting documentation in SAP, so it's available, that can be viewed, you know. So whether it's an Excel document, a PDF, we can actually attach directly from SAP. It's a great function if you want to, you know, if you think of all the subledger recons, MB5L, and for stock and fixed asset registers, you can just attach those directly in SAP itself. And anything that you do in that recon approval is going to be tracked in our audit trail. So all your rejections, all your approvals, all your attachments, however many times you've rejected it and approved it, all the notes going back and forth, full audit trail, that is kept there. And maybe I'll leave it there because I often tend to talk too long on the slide, but hopefully that just gives an idea of a high level, if no one's ever, you know, heard of the best modules, you know, some of this functionality that you can take into when and how our customers are achieving these successes using this functionality. Okay, which I guess leads me into our success highlights, and those are the kind of key areas that I'm going to be focusing on. And what we've done is we've collated all this information. We do customer case studies where we interview and get feedback, and all of this, you know, information is available on our website. But I try to collate it all here so that instead of getting maybe a one-dimensional view from one customer, it's actually quite a nice broad spectrum of input from everyone. Okay, so just having a look at focusing on key benefits achieved, and kind of focusing on a problem identified and what the benefits were achieved, and then the functionality that was kind of key in achieving that. And I've tried to incorporate some kind of direct feedback from some of our customers, you know, so actual comments that they have made in this respective areas. And one aspect, obviously, performing manual recon activities, and you know, we've been able to eliminate printing of reconciliations. So, you know, we had customers that actually would print and file and staple and document every single reconciliation. Obviously, manual signing of these reconciliations, as well as loan account confirmations via email that were being done. And how we kind of achieved eliminating these were using our online reconciliation, which I'd mentioned, and a PDF output functionality. So we have this online recon where I spoke about all that information that's available, but we have a PDF output that you can create, which is a much more you know, formal output that will summarize everything. It'll have all the approval information and detailed information there, and you can actually email it to anyone. So it can be viewed online or it can be emailed, and that's where it's quite useful to be able to email to third-party stakeholders, or, you know, even auditors as well, and include all that supporting documentation. We have online approval. So online approval is now all done on the system, and everything is tracked through the audit trail. That's all underpinned by the SAP authorizations. So you have to have authorization to be able to approve recons, and in that way we can manage who can approve specific recons and specific levels of approval. You know, in terms of just that loan account confirmation, we've got the intercompany matrix and automatic approval functionality. So where a customer of ours had actually managed to be able to set up intercompany relationships between, they were, you know, had a whole lot of hospitals and would be doing these loan account confirmations via email. They now created relationships between the different companies and would be able to run automatic approval, that if the balance between those different relationships was zero at the end of the month, it would auto approve. And then they could run this and actually get a high level of auto approval being done. Take something that was very manual to now actually just managing the exceptions. And just the client comment there, paperless solution results in printing, paper cost, and storage fee saving. And they were actually printing and stapling and filing every single recon. Just time-consuming, inefficient process. Again, kind of lending itself to this manual activities. Increased volume of reconciliations per month, some of the key benefits noted, and faster completion due to automated processes and approvals. And how we achieve that, again, with the online recon report, the automatic categorization of information, it being real time, was able to be able to much faster than doing any kind of extracts and updates in Excel. We have those automated approvals, so we can set the specific criteria. So we'll have different criteria for different recons. Intercompany will be very different to maybe an investment account or just a general balance sheet account. And those rules, once met, will actually automatically approve the reconciliations. And obviously the management reporting to manage the process. So there's no, it's very quick and easy for people to get that information. You're not updating Excel spreadsheets or kind of some centralized control sheet that's now on SharePoint.
I think what draws me to this slide is the increased volumes and the faster completion time. Do you have any particular customer examples that show the benefits of that drive from a business perspective?
Yes, actually, Bacardi, they had a very well documented balance sheet reconciliation process, and what they were doing is they were using a risk-based approach because they couldn't actually complete everything within month end because of the time constraints. They would actually then identify they had a whole complex process of being able to identify that what they deemed as the more riskier accounts, and would reconcile those. And what when we implemented BEST, they were actually able to achieve a 40% increase in the reconciliations that they were achieving per month. And that's with the same staff complements. And in fact, they even mentioned that some of their staff were helping out in some of the other areas because of the increased capacity. But what that meant was that they could actually now reconcile everything in their balance sheet. So they didn't have to adopt this risk-based approach. And they could now go and look at tackling everything. And that's just, the benefit of these automated reports, automated approvals. And a big thing for them was management reporting, because they had these kind of control sheets that everyone had to go and update and feed back into, whereas now they're getting real time from the system. So just looking at another problem, lack of standardization and controls. So standardization is introduced across all reconciliations performed in BEST. So we have that kind of concept of reconciliation templates that we can have. We can have recon types that we manage. We have those approval checks that can be done for specific recons, and in that way make sure that everyone is kind of complying to the same rule set when completing recons within BEST. Another key benefit, system-driven controls introduced throughout the process. And again, those system-driven checks are done at the time of approval. And just to mention some of these, we have a recon status that you can assign. We're finding that this is more and more popular, and it can be as simple as a red, yellow, green concept where you assign that. It lends itself to fantastic exception reporting. If you want to now go and have a look at all the yellow and red flag recons at month end, you can go and have a look and maybe put those into hypercare for the following month until they move into a green status. We can have posting period checks. So some people like to not actually approve anything until it's actually the period is closed. We can have, maybe there's reason codes and long text that you have to add. Again, this is just putting more information at the time of approving, which then flows through to the audit trail and just lends itself to more information when you're looking at that audit trail to actually understand what you're looking at, and drives fantastic exception reporting to have all of these different pieces of information at your fingertips. Attachments, you can make sure that that's always entered, and a comparable balance and bank statement balance. So I guess bank statement is quite obvious. You enter in the physical bank statement balance if you want at the time. A comparable balance, we often use that for maybe it's third-party balances that you are balancing to. We also like to use it for sub-ledger balances like fixed assets or stock, or maybe it's a customer age analysis that you can then use to verify, and it'll actually validate that balance to the GL itself. Okay, so recons and supporting document not easy to locate. So that often, again, this, if sometimes it's, we've all been there with these network folders or whether it's SharePoint, and now you got to find the year and the month, and maybe there's these folders everywhere, and someone hasn't saved it and they've left it on their local drive and haven't updated it. Now everything's going to be available in SAP, so it's all available online. All supporting documentation per recon is available within SAP, so you can actually view all of that supporting documentation. And obviously now being in SAP, you can access the system from everywhere, so you don't have to necessarily be in the office to go and approve or view reconciliations. And you're able to print and email historic reconciliations directly from SAP as well. And again, just how we achieve that, obviously with our online reconciliation report, we're doing our attachments and all of that supporting documentation within SAP itself. I mentioned that SAP spool that you can make directly, so you don't have to now print the report, PDF it, scan it, attach it. And obviously this management reporting in SAP, you've got that real-time approval status and full audit history, and also the PDF that you can create and print and email to anyone who needs the recon. Okay, just checking how we're doing for time. I think all good. Okay, so just I think the last slide around the key benefits achieved is that we're also very open to looking at custom requirements. So if there's something specific and unique to your process that doesn't fit into the best standard functionality, always open to catering for what you need. And we have user exits available for that type of thing. I just wanted to note here again with Bacardi, they had some very unique requirements that we built into the solution. One worth noting was that we actually created a calculation of the US group currency for them on our recon report. Now, this was something that hadn't been implemented across or uniformly across all companies within their system. So this gave them something that they actually didn't even have in standard SAP, which was great. And they noted that without these enhancements, Bacardi would have had to implement manual workaround. And these enhancements save Bacardi considerable time and greatly simplify their reporting. And also allowed these two benefits where the best solution now aligned to the existing Bacardi reconciliation policy, thereby ensuring it need not be changed, and users were also easily able to align with and to adopt the best solution as a result of including these familiar Bacardi requirements. So was nice feedback after including that in the solution for them. So now just to switch tack a bit, it's like looking at audit benefits achieved. We've noticed that the feedback is that there's definitely reduced effort spent on audit queries. And how we achieve this is providing auditors access to best in SAP to allow them to find and review recons as they need, or using the PDF output to email the reconciliation and supporting documentation to auditors. So you have the option, some people like to just say, look, here's display access, help yourself. Or you could actually say, right, well, what do you need? You put in the recons they want and just email everything to them. And just a client comment from Italtal was that internal audit verify and submit the audit trail report to our auditor and risk.com as a balance sheet recon and bank recon is critical in our organization. So that's always great to see. And also enhanced auditor confidence in the balance sheet reconciliation process. And that comes, completeness of the reconciliation process. Approvals can be monitored to ensure that the approval has been completed and within the required deadline. So we can actually track, if it's being done on time. And for Discam, they said automation and online functionality in SAP with best GL recons has led to better internal controls, enhancing their regulatory compliance.
So I would say the audit component is obviously a very important one in all businesses. When you speak to clients, they always talk about auditors. It's fair to say that these benefits have assisted the companies greatly with dealing with the auditors, internal and external.
Yeah, for sure. And I think first and foremost, I think it's actually just save time. It's just ease of and I go back to my years of auditing and having to kind of go up to people and beg and plead for for recons, that everyone's busy, it's month end or it's year end, and now you're coming to bug them for for reconciliations. Now it's really a case of, right, well, it's all on the system, it's all available. So go have a look, help yourself. And I think it also lends itself to now with a system-driven process that they can actually start learning, moving to actually do system-based controls, go and have a look at and check those controls built into the automatic approval. And then they can start basing reliance on the outcomes of that and maybe start reducing their test samples, the test size, it all, as opposed to having to be based on manual processes, which is obviously inherently risky, which has that impact. And also, it gives them that level of confidence, so I think back on all of those kind of buzzwords for auditing. It was completeness, it was accuracy, it was what's the other one? But it's all of those kind of key words that they're looking at that drives how risky it is and what kind of testing that they're doing, and now they can actually see that that's being managed by best. Okay, so I guess that leads us nicely into looking at specifically controls implemented. So just looking at some of these, automated processes to reduce manual errors. So now you can start relying on these automated processes, categorization, approvals, etc., to assist. We have full audit history and change reporting. So it's not just necessarily all on approvals. If you go and look at anyone who's changing master data, who's changing reason codes and supplementary data on the recon, that's all going to be tracked within the system of who changed it and when. We have automated control checks to ensure compliance. So that, talking back to all of those checks that we can do at the time of approval, that are making sure that are completed how you want them whilst you performing that approval. We have management oversight throughout through comprehensive management and exception reporting. Again, we have that Recon Hub managing the entire process. Audit trail with really nice exception reporting that we can drive. And assisting with compliance of new SOX controls, such as ensuring that master data is correct and accurate in SAP, and ensuring that the correct owners of the accounts are assigned in the master data. So we have detailed reports that people can run to actually go and monitor that master data. We have different mechanisms for managing who the correct people are, so that you can ensure that the correct lines of responsibility are in place. And just a comment from Netcare, the implementation of several controls throughout the month-end process of particular importance to Netcare being a listed entity. They named automated control checks to ensure users comply with specific requirements and value checks and validations inherent in the approval process. Okay, so just looking at some efficiencies achieved and feedback that we've got, paperless solution, printing, paper cost and storage fee saving, time saving and optimized staff allocation through using these automated processes. Reconciliation available for review immediately when prepared. There's no delays waiting for files or spreadsheets. That's quite a nice point you can kind of forget about, but everything is real time and available at any point. So as soon as you have prepared that recon, it's immediately available for review and approval. The reconciliations are updated real time in SAP, so there's no need to reprint and re-sign all documents again. There's also no need to wait for any interface lag or updates within the system. It's all immediate, and simplified intercompany loan reconciliations and confirmations. So if anyone is struggling with intercompany recons, it's always quite a fun discussion to have. You can spend a good hour kind of understanding the process, but we have this nice intercompany matrix that we build, and it can be quite fun to watch the results of this come out and even look at automated approvals that run off the back of that. Again, just a comment from Italtal, our due date for balance sheet reconciliations is the 10th, and the bank recons are the 7th. We now get bank recons being completed as early as the 3rd day now, and balance sheet recons on the 5th. This is because of Invest is such an easy process. There's no manual processes. It's all online, which is quite nice feedback to get.
I think this is the most important part here, is the reporting. How has BEST actually enhanced the SAP solution in regards to the reporting and oversight of the reconciliation process? I think many people have got that question on their tongue waiting for an answer.
Yeah, for sure. And I know, I talk about, our Recon Hub, which it is also a master data report. So you can actually track, you can actually see which recons you're doing, but you can also see which recons potentially you're not doing. So you can always monitor the recons that aren't being done, maybe that need to be incorporated into your process. We can run, exception reporting from the entire process. You obviously have the lines of responsibility. We can drive automated kind of notifications from this. We also actually incorporate a whole lot of balances from the Recon Hub and within the approval program itself. You can actually see some really nice balance information that can influence how you might want to approach the recon or approach the approval. Things like your current year balance, your current period movement, your prior year-end balance, things like that you can actually view very quickly and easily on the screen at the time of looking at the recon. Obviously, the audit trail has a wealth of information that you can just run as many exceptions as possible. And I think we'll see this comment from Italtal. I know it's Sarah's favorite report that she runs to go and have a look for these types of exceptions based on what's happened at the time of approval. But what perhaps I don't often speak about when talking about management reporting is actually the recon report itself. We tend to think of it as very much a report for one reconciliation, but you can run it for as many recons as you want, and as many company codes. So now all of a sudden, you might want to actually go and have a look and say, right, well, I want to see all of my accruals across the entire organization. And now, because it's an online report, you can actually collate all that information. So now you can start looking at your categorization across all of them. And obviously, aging is inherent in all of our recons. So now you throw aging over that. And now you can have a very high bird's eye view and drill down into very specific transactions and specific accounts and company codes that maybe are 210 days over, and then go and flag those and chase them up. So the recon report is also in itself is its own management report for exactly that purpose. And that's something that you can't do with Excel. You can't collate disparate Excel templates and sheets and try and get that view of all the information for those recons. Yeah, so maybe just everything I've said there probably covers a lot of this, but obviously the benefits with improved reporting and management of month-end process. The Recon Hub gives you that easy oversight of the recon status and progress, and that audit history ensures full accountability, and peer reviews can now be easily performed. And I think that a word accountability is a good one. At any point in time, you can go up to someone and say, you've been reconciling this and approving this for the last 6 months. Why has this happened? And as soon as someone has to kind of put your name to something, it automatically drives a slightly different behavior. And now it's like, well, I'm putting my name to this. I better make sure that this recon is right in case it comes back to me. And just some quick comments here. Bacardi noted that the best management reporting is assisting Bacardi to manage the approval status and their reconciliation deadlines. These reports have provided Bacardi with real-time and reliable reporting previously not available before. Best management reports have replaced legacy SharePoint spreadsheets that was manually updated and was never entirely accurate or fully reliable. And just talking about the audit trail, it'll tell the most important management report for me is the audit trails. It gives me everything I need and cannot be manually manipulated. I run this on a user basis so I can understand how many recons the accountants are doing on a monthly basis, along with completion times and supporting attachments. Internal audit verify and submit that report to our auditor and RISCOM as a balance sheet recon, and a bank recon is critical in our organization. Okay. Okay, so I know we're nearly there. I'm just going to give you some quick processing stats, because I think it's quite nice to actually understand how much is being done, what are the kind of key attributes of the reconciliations being completed. And I'll go through this quite quickly so that we can take some questions. Looking at AfriSam, they've been using the GL Recon since 2021. They complete over 16,000 recons per month. It's a very high number, but they also have a very high auto approval rate. And the reason for that is that they have a lot of recons done at a profit center level. And a lot of those profit centers might not be posted to, so they can use the auto approval to actually get rid of, but approve those reconciliations at month end. And they have a very good completion. They approve everything within their within their set deadline. Bacardi, who we've spoken about quite a bit, using GL recon since 2021, and they complete over 4,500 recons per month. They're auto-approving just over 10% of month-end recons, and they are now completing 100% of their balance sheet recons now with Best, which is what we spoke about earlier, moving from a risk-based approach to completing everything. Now, looking at Netcare, also since 2021, have been using Best GL recons. They complete over 20,000 recons per month, which is quite a staggering number if you consider that that's actually going through 2 levels of approval every month. But they also are auto-approving 66% of their month-end recons. They pride themselves on reconciling all their balance sheet accounts. So it's really an ambitious target, but they utilize that auto-approval to be able to back that up. They're completing 92% of their recons within the deadline. And what's something that's quite unique and worth noting is that they're doing 300 ad hoc approvals per month. And that's something I haven't mentioned, but you can do an ad hoc approval. It sits outside of your kind of formal approval process, but it can be used for internal audit. It could be a financial director who's just doing, kind of a check. And it could just be to make sure that the controls are being met. And there's like a formal, I guess, you can actually see that check was done in the system itself. This game, using GL recons since 2020, they complete over 2,400 recons per month, auto-approving 14% of those. Italtile, they're using our module since 2021, complete approximately 150 recons per month and auto-approved 37%. And lastly, just looking at ShopRite, using it since 2022, complete approximately 550 recons per month and auto-approving 43% of those. So it's quite interesting to see, some varying values, some as low as 150, some as high as 20,000, but also different auto-approval percentages in terms of how they are managing that process. But, it might be interesting for people to see, how they stack up and go, well, geez, okay, well, I'm glad, if they thought, well, I thought we were doing 3,000 and that was a lot and was too much, but these guys are doing 20,000. It's useful to know.
It's amazing. It's really great to see, especially knowing that most of these are very high transaction environments as well. To get such a high level of approvals and done in a month is amazing.
Okay, so almost there at the end of what I've got to present. Looking forward, our Best modules are constantly evolving. So we are always bringing out new enhancements that we are incorporating into our standard product. We basically bring these enhancements and make them available via a support pack. And a new support pack is typically released, at a minimum every 6 months. But realistically, perhaps maybe every 2 to 3 months. But at a minimum, it's released every 6 months. And, some of our latest enhancements are, that automated emailing functionality via our Recon Hub that I mentioned. So that can give you approval notifications and escalations, but in a kind of meaningful and useful way, not bombarding your inbox. We have those additional account balances that are available on the Recon Hub and the approval program so that you can reference that at the time of either prepping for month end or actually approving reconciliations. And then that last point, we've got some S4 Fiori tiles and dashboards, and I've actually got some slides that I'll be able to show you just so you get a feel for that before we wrap up.
Yeah.
So, as people are moving to S4HANA, Fiori is becoming more and more of a talking point. It seems to be becoming much more of a kind of a standard method of engaging with SAP. So the GUI is kind of falling away and everyone wants to move towards Fiori. So we can have made our functionality available within Fiori. So there's our main menu that you can click on as a tile and it will actually open up within Fiori itself, and you can access all of the best functionality to run your hub, to run your recon reports, all through this Fiori interface. And in terms of taking some of that important information, from the audit trail and from our Recon Hub, we can actually now look at kind of, providing that information through this GL reporting dashboard. So something like on the left there, you can actually say, your reconciliations per approval level. So you can see what's not started, what's kind of waiting approval, and what has been completed. And you can drill down into the detail. So it's quite a nice, fun way. It's a much more graphical, kind of user interaction that you can use. We can look at your finalized reconciliations by status. And then we also have some kind of perhaps more value-based reports where you can actually now see, in terms of what you're expecting to reconcile every month, the balances per account group, for instance, or perhaps something on the right there where it's looking at your top 10 highest movements for the month. So just a really nice way of incorporating information that, traditionally you might have variance on an online report. Now have these nice little kind of graphical dashboards that you can have a look at.
I do see we've got some questions. So the first question is, can journals be sent to SAP and posted from best directory without approvals?
Sorry, Mark, just say that again.
It says, can journals be sent to SAP and posted from best directly with approvals? Sorry, with approvals.
So I guess maybe just to understand that is, the beauty of being inside of SAP is that we typically don't have to go and recreate like a journals concept that often is a requirement with third-party systems. So often there's now you get it, but now if you actually want to post anything, you have to buy an additional add-on to enable that. We pretty much are. Whatever you need to do, you do it on SAP, and it'll flow into the recon. So if you wanted to go and post anything, or you would use your standard SAP functionality to do that. If you needed a kind of like approval process, you could typically use that park and post functionality within SAP to enable that, where people can park journals, have someone approve it, post it, and then see it. We can actually even pull in those park documents onto our recon. So it's an option if you want to be able to see park documents. And that could be quite useful because maybe you're looking at it and there's a whole lot of stuff that's stuck in parks that should actually have been posted. You can actually now have visibility of that and go, oh, okay, I haven't actually approved all my park documents. Go approve it, rerun your recon, and that'll be available.
Cool. The second question is, can it manage multiple ledger? We use lead ledger and a local ledger for entries who have different local accounting policies. Which ledger does the system draw data from?
So we draw data from the leading ledger. So everything pulls from the leading ledger, primarily because that's typically your main reporting ledger. So that's what we pull our information from.
Cool. Then the next one is, what level of sub-ledgers pulled into the reconciliation? Do we get transaction level detail or sub-ledger balances? For fixed assets, for example, do we get asset level detail?
Yes, you do, actually. So I just thought I might stop sharing so we can see us. But yes, no, we do. So we actually have full control via our master data how we want to do it. So typically we tap into the SAP standard settings, and we might say, look, if it's not open item managed, we expect that maybe line item detail isn't that paramount, and we can give you like a summarized opening balance. We can even give you a summarized current balance, which means it's very fast. That might work out well for stock, where you actually don't really care about the detail, but you want the balance. But we can, at any point in time, always say, give me the full detail. And that might be useful for something like fixed assets. So what we actually do is we'll actually go down to the document level, and we pull information such as the asset number, the asset class. We pull all of the asset transaction types. And what's unique about our asset recon is that we can categorize based on that. So the beauty of that is that, like, if you say the transaction type group, which is typically the most common, you can use that for categorization. So now you're running general ledger information that you can now actually see, right, okay, for this, there's my acquisitions, there's my depreciation, there's my transfers. And now you've got like an asset history sheet view of GL information. And just, whilst we're talking fixed assets, is what we find is such a big time saving, is that people actually go, right, well, my main objective here is to reconcile the GL to my fixed asset register and make sure that there's no discrepancy between GL and the submodule. So we find the most common approach is to combine all the cost and accumulated depreciation accounts into one recon per company code. And that might be 30 to 50 GL accounts in that company code. And then they run that reconciliation. You can see all of that information. You can always see at the lowest level per asset class, whatever you need to do. But at the end of the day, there's a net book value that's presented in the recon, and that can now just go. You can go and print your fixed asset register, attach it from the spool, add in your comparable balance, update your status, and if everything ties up in 5 minutes, you can now have gone and approved 30 to 50 GL accounts, as simply as that, but with the full backing that everything agrees to your fixed asset register.
Fantastic. Then one about master data. How does BEST ensure master data is correct? What is it checking it against?
So essentially what we do is we have our master data that sits in our own namespace. So it's often quite a important, or it can be a concern of people that, well, hang on, are you going to have to come in and trample all over our standard SAP master data? That's not the case. We have it all separate in our namespace that drives our functionality. We do also tap into the standard SAP functionality. Like I mentioned, we'll go and check, is it open item managed? And that might drive certain standard behavior in terms of how we would expect you might want to run the recon. But all of our master data is reflected in our hub report as well. So at any point in time, you can run that and see, do cross checks between the account type and perhaps the recon type that you've assigned. You can see who the responsible people that are assigned to it. So you have that full visibility. I hope I'm answering the question correctly and what you're after. If not, just feel free to email me or drop me a line and we can take it further. But we have that full visibility of our master data that is independent of the SAP data.
And just clarifying, I think from the next one is a cloud.
Oh, sorry, you said I heard is the cloud.
Is BEST SAP cloud compatible?
Yes, it is. So it's just the public cloud that we are busy working with SAP itself. I think that's much the same as with all kind of these additional SAP modules, is just understanding exactly how we're going to exist in a public cloud environment, but private cloud and things like that, that's not a problem.
Yeah. Then one is for Bacardi, is mentioned that 100% of its recons is done on BEST now. What is it for other companies? And if it is not 100%, what is the limitation?
So certainly no limitation in terms of numbers. I think just to be, Bacardi do 100%, I think, is of their balance sheet accounts. But we also reconcile income statement as well if you want to, but there is no limitation. You can see like the Netcares are doing over 20,000. It's typically just that people might have specific recons that they want to do. So when if they do a subset, there might be specific reason what they activate. So we can control that via our master data in terms of what you want to reconcile, what you don't want to reconcile. But certainly no limitation in terms of value or number or things like that.
Yeah. We're coming up to the end. I'm going to try to get another question in quickly. Will accounts that are rejected and decertified be easy and visible and reportable?
Yes, yeah, for sure. So, I mean, first of all, on the hub, something that was maybe if it was approved to level 1 or 2 and you now rejected, it immediately falls back down in the chain. So you would expect to see everything completed to level 2 at the end of the month. Anything that's not, you might want to have a look at. So that's one aspect that you would drive out to say, right, why weren't these completed? The other option is that in the audit trail, it's very easy to identify rejections. So you can identify what was rejected. In fact, you'll be able to identify the occurrences of rejections. So you might actually go and have a look and say, right, well, Chris, why are your recons being rejected 7 times every single month? What's going on? What aren't you doing? So you have that visibility to be able to report on that.
I think that's the end of it. Apologies to the rest that we couldn't get through to the rest of the questions. If you would like a personalized demo, if you want to send more questions through to me, the contact details are on the screen. As stated, between G3G and Best have been working together since 2019. G3G is an implementation and support partner with here in the UK and Ireland. So you can reach out to myself and we can take it from there to get your personalized demo. Or if there's any questions that you might have, just drop an email through and we'll reply to you.